everyone. Kind of cold, but still good. This is a book I hadn't really intended to read until March, which is when its publication date is, but I kind of couldn't resist it and I just kept looking at it, so I decided to read it anyway. And the book in question is a Burnable book by Bruce Holsinger. This obviously is an advanced read that I picked up at work because of two words that I saw on the back. London 1385. We are in medieval London, you guys. So London 1385, we're in the reign of Richard II, whom, if you're aware of the Shakespeare play, you know there's a lot of turmoil and things going on here involving Richard and John of Gaunt and the church and everything else that's happening. So basically we're in a time of sort of suppressed, simmering chaos within London. Very specifically, we are in Chaucer's London. Chaucer is actually a main or big player in this book, though he's not necessarily the protagonist. Our primary protagonist is a businessman by the name of John Gower, who also seems to dabble in poetry, and he and Chaucer know each other through the literary community, but also through some events involving John Gower's son, who was sent away to Italy for some things that he did, and it's sort of a dark stain on Gower's record that he doesn't like anybody to really know about. Chaucer comes to him and asks him to find a book, a very specific book, a burnable book. What a burnable book is any sort of text that could stir up chaos or trouble or is considered dangerous by the crown. Essentially, it's a seditious work. In this case, the seditious work in question is called the Liber de Mortibus Regum Angulorum, which in Latin translates to the Book of the Deaths of the English Kings. What makes this book so seditious is that it has these 13 prophecies, starting with William the Conqueror, and if you know your English history and your English kings, up until the 13th king, who is Richard II. And essentially what these prophecies do is, in relative detail and with absolute accuracy, tell how each English king has died, and in the case of Richard II, how he's going to die. And it was supposedly written by this character by the name of Lollius, who's from, way back when, so the time they were prophecies, he was predicting the future. And because all of these prophecies, the first 12 have been true, the 13th, they're really scared about the idea of the 13th getting out, because then people would panic, or maybe try and make the prophecy come true, but at the moment they're also just trying to figure out what the prophecy is anyway, so that they can stop it from coming true. So Chaucer asks Gower to find the book because it was stolen, and there's no way for Chaucer or the other people to really know exactly what the prophecy says or what's going on there because nobody can find it. The book actually opens with us meeting the girl who stole the book and passing it off to a young Madeline. Madeline being a prostitute. With my own name being Madeleine, I am so not cool with having to call them Maudelyns because I know the derivation of that term. Back to business. The young Madeline by the name of Agnes receives the book and watches this young thief get murdered pretty brutally. So she goes to her sister Millicent, and essentially they try and get rid of the book by selling it, and they're having their own kind of cluster of an adventure with one of my favorite characters, mind you. And that is a Maudlin by the name of Edgar, who often goes out as a woman named Eleanor. So he's kind of cross-dressing and he plays both characters really well. What's really neat is that depending on whom Edgar/Eleanor is going as, that's what she will get called in this book. So whenever Edgar is Edgar, he's written as Edgar did this, Edgar did that, but whenever it's Eleanor did this and Eleanor did that, and it's really cool. I mean, he has his own subplot involving his brother who's working with the butchers and is kind of getting abused a little bit at his work, and then they get swept up in this revolution of the prophecy. At the same time, Edgar's knows Agnes, and he's dealing with Millicent, and Agnes trying to sell the book, get rid of the book, get his hands on the book. All the while, John Gower is running around trying to figure out A, what this book is, because Chaucer didn't really tell him, and B, get the actual book. So you have these two parallel running storylines, while at the same time, you're hearing about all the conspiracy and treason that's going on in Italy from where this book originated, and it's really complex, you guys, but it's really good. The stories all intersect at some point, at least Gower and the Maudlins, they intersect and meet up at one point, and what they do with the prophecy, oh my god, you guys. Oh my god. Because they have to navigate all the politics of the time, including John of Gaunt and his mistress, Katherine Swynford, who knows Chaucer, so therefore knows Gower, and there's a lot of backstabbing, a lot of revolutions, a lot of stuff that happens in this book. I mean, it's a pretty good sized book, so that's why you can get away with doing so much in it. I was just so swept into the world. I'm a huge Anglophile as it is, and I especially love reading stuff that's taking place in like medieval England because I find it so interesting, and this book played to all those things. I mean, I'm no scholar of medieval English history. I understand that Bruce Holsinger is a scholar of medieval history, so I'm going to take his word for it that this is extremely well researched and that a lot of this is pretty accurate to what, you know, what's going on. I mean, he's obviously played with it within the world and how people act and live. He's right on the money, I'm assuming. And that's what helped make this book so much fun. I loved going into the world and hearing about all these places and reading what was happening to these characters and all the little quirks and tricks that let you know you're definitely in the past, but it's not fantasy. I mean, there's no fantasy or anything like this. This is just straight up a historical adventure. I had, like I said, planned not to read this until March because that's when it's going to be released in the US. But I really just couldn't resist because, again, I just kept looking at this cover, which I think is a great cover design, and I just really wanted to read this. And so I did. Maybe I should apologize, but I won't. So that's all for me today, you guys. Definitely check out a Burnable book when it hits shelves, either borrow it from the library or something, because it's a lot of fun. And until next time, cheers.